All right, there, Bales.
G'day, Tim. How are we doing, mate?
Not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good. Looking forward to a good weekend of footy. So we've got round 8. Can't believe it's already round 8. Sort of flown by. So yeah, it's going well. So, mate, how's the week been? What are you looking forward to the week?
Yeah, a bit of a busy week for me, mate. I've spent a couple of days in court just with family stuff. Never fun, but and always, as is the case with legal stuff, slow going. So pretty much everything just got delayed. So
yeah,
got to do it all again in a month. But that's fine. But and I was lucky, mate. Lucky there wasn't like a week of carnage or anything along those lines. But yeah, I've now started to ask myself the question because I'm still like, I don't know, I've been kind of a bit messed up all bloody week about my trades from last week. Like I wasn't happy with my trades, but at the same time, I couldn't see what were the bloody right trades to have made. And I'm actually wondering whether, actually keeping LDU was I should have considered that more considering he's back, but I don't know. We'll know by Sunday, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, this is a pretty tough week for trades, I think. There's a lot of people that are sort of stuck with what to do. There's not many downgrades, so it'll be interesting to see what people do. So if you're listening as well as usual, make sure you drop your questions in below on Twitter, or we are streaming on YouTube as well. So if you've got questions, put them through and we'll answer them throughout. We'll go for about an hour or just over an hour, and then we'll let people go with everything. But we got Stato's jumped on as well for a chat with us. Stato, mate, how are you?
Very good, gents. End of the working week. Tad tired, but ready for
it. No, looking forward to it, Stato. But we'll get stuck into what we are looking at doing this week. It's a tough week, Stato. So what are you planning to do? Is this week been a bit difficult for you to decide what trades you're going to make, or has it been pretty good for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I really only had 2 angles. I've only got 3 rookies left. I had that last week, and they all turned up. So I think we can probably put a line through Sheasel. So 2 rookies on the field, Ashcroft and Chandler. Chandler's got a easy match. I think we can run with Ashcroft for a few more weeks, maybe up until his bye, in his round 12 bye. So I'm just looking at my problems on the field, and I've got a few. But 2 from one team with a tough matchup coming, and one I've probably been keen to move on for a little while. So Rids and Setterfield are going, and I'm playing one risky hand and one safe bet. So I'm going the Rat. So I had a choice of it was either Chincotta or Rat to bring in down from Ridley. And I'm going up from Setterfield to the highest owned premium that I haven't got, which is that bit of blanket security with the position I am in, Jordan Dawson. So Rat and Dawson in for Ridley and Setterfield.
Perfect, love it. Yeah, well, I'll go to my trade screens because mine are fairly similar. So I've had it with McGrath. He can go. He's done my head in. So. But I'm doing Philippou to Fiorini, so I had 425k in the bank, so I'm able to do that, and then also go McGrath up to Jack Steele, who I like the run coming up, and there's a good bit of point of difference, I think, for me, because ranked about just inside 9k. I think he may be a good player to hopefully get me up those ranks. And we also got Liam, who's jumped on for a chat, mate. Liam, it's been a while, mate. How are you?
Yeah, it has been a while there, Bale. So I'm pretty good, mate. I've much like the rest of the community, been umming and ahhing all week. There's just been a smorgasbord of potential options, but none without some serious red flags.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, what are you looking at doing with your trades this week, Liam? But actually, first, before you start, how's your season going? How are you doing with fantasy this year?
Fantasy this year, it's not been incredible. I'm up at 9,300-ish at the moment, but I didn't start with Darcy or English. I actually started with Rob, and I also didn't start with Dacos. So I was a little bit behind the 8 ball there, and then I've also copped outs with Kelly and LDU throughout the season. So that hasn't exactly been exemplary. And I'm also in much the same position as Stato in that I've got Jordan Ridley, and I'm looking to move him on. So at the moment, I'm going Jordan Ridley up to Jack Steele, and then considering either Fergus Green down to Ryan Angwin or Jacob Van Rooyen down to Blake Drury.
Yeah, it's tough. I like Drury, but I'm normally that guy that says I never bring in a 200k rook. But I guess beggars can't be choosers. With this year, we really haven't had many downgrades, so it could be a good thing going early because we might get more guys, hopefully, in the next few weeks coming through. And then, Tim, mate, what are you looking at doing with your moves this week?
Yeah, mine have actually been really simple this week. I mean, I know everyone's talking about the smorgasbord of options, but for me, it was kind of actually pretty simple. Philippou out for Chincotta, and then Cam McKenzie up to Braden Fiorini.
Yeah.
And then that leaves me pretty much just with Pedlar. I am playing Chincotta on field and Ashcroft as my only rookies. And then I don't really, the only mid-pricer I would say that I have would be like a Johansson. So I'm feeling still pretty confident about my team. Like, things went backwards for me last week, which was a bit disappointing, but yeah, I'm still feeling pretty strong about my team.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, it's good that you'll be able to grab Chincotta this week because I think that he's probably the number one. If people don't have him, he's obvious downgrade. Yeah. But if people have got him, that's where it sort of gets a bit tricky. You've got plenty of these.
To some extent looks a bit atrocious. I've actually got a little bit of hope. I mean, I've got Wilmot there who's playing, obviously Callum, who knows, he might come back, in the next couple of weeks, right? But he's not I don't think he's a complete write-off. Alwyn Davey, he's obviously playing. I do have that Bodie Ulland, which is obviously he's a red dot, and Max Heath, who's a red dot. But apart from that, Caminiti, but he'll be back in, I think, one more week potentially. Well, from his suspension, whether he gets a gig in the team, I'm not sure. And then Chesser, I mean, he's the flying emergency this week. So while I was a bit worried about my bench as well, it's not looking as bad as what I thought it might be.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's good that a few of these guys have either come back in or they're sort of back from injury in Chesser. But one thing I just want to say as well, that a few
people... ask the other... Sorry, Bales, before I cut you off, mate. Yeah. Sorry. What about the other boys? Let's ask Stato. Let's ask Liam, like how their bench is shaping up at the moment.
Well, hang on, just before we go, okay. I was only just going to say that people were worried a little bit about Chesser, but from what the coach and that have said is that he won't play unless he's absolutely needed. He sounds like he's just a travelling emergency just to be safe. So I don't think he'll be the sub or playing. So he should be fine for people to loop because he's the first game tomorrow. So you'll know if you're looping anyone tonight. But yeah, so Stato, and we'll start with you. Actually, we'll start with Liam because we'll go the other way this time. So Liam, mate, how's your bench looking at the moment?
I'm in a similar-ish position to Tim. I've got Cowan, who I believe will be back in the side at some point in the next fortnight. I've got Noah Long, who I also think that once he comes off injury, just given how consistent his role was in the first few rounds he played, I believe he'll come straight back into that side. I've also got Heath, and unfortunately, I traded in Matt Roberts a couple of weeks ago, and that's a serious issue. But at the moment, that's not my highest priority to fix. Just not when there's not really a slam dunk rookie that I'm really confident in. Kind of for a month-long period, I don't want to be flicking around too many red dots to potential 1 week green dots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that those red dots are ones that, unless your bench is completely ruined, I think, they're the ones that maybe you can look at fix them in the buys or something like that, I reckon. So as long as you have only got the one or two, then I think that's all right. Stato, mate, how's your bench looking?
Yeah, I've got Cowan sitting there in the defence. I've got Roberts, and that might be my season regret, going Roberts instead of Chincotta, which is a bit disappointing. And Ulland and Heath. I brought in Ulland and Roberts, and they're both out for the remainder of the season the week after I got them. So tremendous. So the plan is the trades that I've done gives me over 200k in the bank. So Either Chandler or Pickett will go up to the right Gold Coast midfielder next week. And the reason why I say that, I want to see what happens in the CBAs and see if hashtag Draft Doctors Flanders gets it or Dossie's boy, the GOAT, gets it. And Roberts will go to jury. So I actually start moving on those red dot rookies. So come round 12, I've got a little bit more play.
Perfect. Well, looking good, Stato, towards the buys. And we've got the rookie expert that's jumping on as well for a chat. Jeppa, mate, how's the week been for you, mate?
Yeah, pretty busy. And Friday's already here. So it was a quick week for me. And now, get some Friday night footy and we'll see what happens. Eh?
Well, firstly, just want to say, mate, congrats on the win over in the Content Creators Cup. So good win for you with some of your big primos going big with Petrarca and Walsh. They've been good picks for you so far.
Yeah, I was due for a good one, mate, and you got me on the worst week. So I've had a shocker of a start to the season and then slowly turning the corner. So, yeah, Walsh and Petrarca are amazing, ticking boxes. Tom Green as well. So trying to nail those top 8 mid primos before defenders and forwards. I was cold on Jack Steele until I spoke to DC during the week in a group chat that we've got, and he's convinced me otherwise, and now I've got a bit of FOMO. So I'm thinking of moving on Keziah Pickett to do so, even though Pickett's got a good run coming up. So, yeah, decisions, but I'm just going to wait for tonight. Personally, with my team, I just put out a rookie rank. Obviously Chincotta's still number 1 on the list for those that don't have him. I think straight back with Angwin, playing on the wing, yes, hasn't been amazing, but looks to have short-term job security. I put Drury in at 3 just because I feel like they gave him, he was touted for a round 1 debut. If we remember, he was really tracking well on the pre-season. Then I think he did a hammy or a soft tissue. And they got a good block in him now, and now it's his time. So Drury's probably there for the buys, but I put him in at 3 because his role's going to be forward, and his ceiling's not going to be much above 60. I think you can expect 40s reasonably. Weddle at 4. He's susceptible to some low scores as well. Still learning. Obviously, an athlete first, footballer second. No disrespect to the kid, but he's got a lot to learn against the bigger boys. And then Miles Bergman, who's come back in. So that's good signs for owners who held. So I put him in at 5 because he's still 280K.
Perfect. The two I just want to ask you about as well, just a couple other rookies I've heard floating around that people have half considered. So Dylan Williams at 305. So a little bit expensive, but seems to have decent job security, like in the short term. Arthur Jones at the Bulldogs, who not scoring great, but his spot's sort of locked in and he sort of looks like he's getting better with every game. And then also maybe touch on what your thoughts are on Matt Johnson when he comes back from his suspension, if he'll be in the side. So what are your thoughts on those 3?
So, yeah, with Williams, he's gone 40s, 30s, and then punched out a 67 against St Kilda, which is the easiest team to score from half back. So he's had West Coast and Bulldogs before that too. So I don't think spending $305,000 for, again, a ceiling type player, you can save $100,000 and go to jury for similar scores, in my opinion. Arthur Jones, I mean, I'm just, we've already, most of us have Davey, those forward pocket type players that get locked in a little bit. Again, I'm more inclined to go the fresh meat jury because he's bargain basement, $200,000. And who was the third one?
Matt Johnson, just when he comes, obviously 2-game suspension, but when he comes back.
Yeah, when he comes back for sure. But the problem is now, like Erasmus will step up and, he might come into his role a little bit more and Johnson might find himself on the outer. So, bit to play out there.
Yeah, exactly right.
How do you think Erasmus is going to go?
Yeah, good.
And if he gets, Yeah,
I rate him highly. I got him ahead of Johnson personally, but
I
I'm not
him
sure
off the waivers in a
he's-
draft.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he's been on the outer to start the season at Freo. They tried in the preseason, I obviously went down and saw Freo, and they purely played Johnson and Erasmus as inside mids. Fife was forward. So they mapped out their positions pre-season and they trained accordingly. Obviously, their season hasn't gone to plan. The wings haven't worked. Ethan Hughes doesn't provide much. Yes, he's a defensive winger, but him and Henry have been their mainstay wingers for the season when O'Driscoll's been injured, and it just hasn't worked. So what they're going to change up, if they change up, not Aisha's gone back out to a wing, which I think that's his best spot. There's probably still one wing spot there. O'Driscoll's first in line, and now with Fife, it's going to be very interesting where he plays because a little birdie told me he might play midfield. So, yeah, a bit to play out there because of what Freo doing at the stoppages and struggling at the stoppages.
Yeah, very, very interesting to see what Freo do.
And that might have an effect on Sarong, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be interesting to see what Brayshaw's now said that he's pain-free from his knee. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes moving forward and if that maybe affects Sarong or anything like that. I don't think it will. I think they'll both still score well, but will be very interesting. And then what we'll do, I'll talk through one more thing before we get into, actually two more things before we get into some questions. We'll talk about captains, but firstly, just want to sort of get everyone's thoughts on the big two Gold Coast players everyone's been talking about in Rory Atkins and Braden Fiorini. So Liam, mate, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on both these two guys? Are you preferring just one or both, or you prefer to wait a week, or what are your thoughts?
I think if I was going to preference either, it would be Fiorini, just because I think he has a more well-rounded game and is less likely to just put up a completely junk score and then get dropped. I think the problem, I can completely understand why Rat King is an option, but I would be only doing it if you're very comfortable that if he gets dropped next week, there is somewhere else for you to go and you're comfortable with who you'd be otherwise trading in. Because, it was a surprise to everybody that he got selected, and he was, one of however many it was, 9 people who scored over 95 for Gold Coast last week. That's a pretty low market share of their points, and I don't know if they're going to, be able to play a ridiculously chip mark game every single week.
Yeah, it was obviously points fest last week for the Suns against Richmond, so some of those scores could be inflated. Stato, you're obviously bringing in Rory Atkins. Are you keen on Fiorini as well, or you'd rather watch and see how maybe Flanders comes in and affects things? What are your thoughts on both?
Well, if Doss wasn't on, I'd say Fiorini is a shit option, but he is listening, so I can't say that because at the end of the day, although Dossie's probably not our best fantasy coach, he does run our roster on Pod. So I'll say that Fiorini has the absolute high-level fantasy game, but unfortunately he probably hasn't got the best football game. With Flanders coming in, I just want to see what happens in that midfield mix. Now, I'll just give you a little tip. I just got so excited at what I saw from Rat. So watching him play that game, I was so impressed. In fact, there was a couple of times I was trying to find out the bloke's number that was performing like that to check who it was, because I didn't. I was a little bit unsure who the player was, and going, geez, they've found one here. And then it was Rat, and I'm going, that's not quite right. So he looked like a different player to me. So then, obviously, as you do, you get highlighted an option. You look at the price and you go, oh, wow. Then had a look at the scoring history. Had 3 years at Adelaide where he scored or averaged over 80. I think one of them might have been around about the 86, 87 mark. All those years, 20, 21 and 22 games. Thought, geez, that's pretty impressive. And then roll back and had a look at his VFL form. He's averaging 100 there. So he's just in really good form. I don't know the reason why he hasn't been in the 22 before, whether it's form, injury, fitness, whatever the case may be, but just really impressed. The price point and the break even, it's either now or never. And the other one to look at was Chincotta. I just feel a little bit more comfortable, a 28-year-old that's had 3 years of averaging 80 in this system. To go on my field, if I'm going down from Rids, the payoff, of course, is I get a premium on the other end. So the reason why I've got that, but I will say I'm looking at Fiorini because I really like the matchup with West Coast Eagles the following week after Melbourne, and obviously having a really close look at Ned as well. So I'll be interested to see what happens. I could be wrong. It could be Fiorini's the man, but look, it looks pretty clear that he's going to be more wing, especially with Weller out and another insider coming in.
Yeah, well,
he only had 3 CBAs.
Yeah,
last
that's
week.
right. Yeah, it was low, so it was more that he actually just played well instead of having that actual role. But the one thing you mentioned with Rat, I remember I was quite disappointed when he left the Crows a few years ago, and I've sort of always thought, I don't know why he's not playing for Gold Coast with that. He's got like a big contract. I don't exactly know what the number is, but it's been a surprise he hasn't played more. So hopefully he can get a good run and get some games for Gold Coast. Tim, what are your thoughts on Fiorini and Atkins?
Yeah, just before, I don't have a lot of thoughts on Atkins. I haven't really done a great deal of research on him. I mean, it sounds like he's got some scoring potential, but of course the concern is about whether he's best 22, but it's not a huge amount of risk at that price. For me, I am obviously looking at Fiorini. The only thing I was going to basically add was Pete was talking about how he went back and watched the Fiorini game, and while he wasn't getting the CBAs, he was acting as that extra kind of forward that would then roll up to the stoppages. So he was still getting, So I mean, look, I didn't see it myself. I'm going off what Pete said, but if that still puts him around the ball, I mean, I'm pretty happy. And we know what Fiorini can do, and I think there's just, at that kind of price point, there's just little options, and I need someone there. So it's a bit of a no-brainer for me, I think.
And then Jet,
obviously with all the flags, I'm very aware of all the flags, but he's whatever he is, 500 grand. I'm upgrading a rookie to him. It's not a big
exactly
deal.
right. And that's the one thing I'd say that I would, if I was getting Fiorini, I wouldn't be doing unless you're getting something else on the other end, like a restructure type, a bit like what Stato's doing, where he's sort of going a really down Atkins, but using that cash on top of Setterfield to go up. I wouldn't be just doing a downgrade on the bench and then doing a Setterfield down to Fiorini cash up. I'd want to be going Setterfield up and getting Fiorini from a rookie up. But Jeppa, mate, what are your thoughts on Atkins and Fiorini?
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to probably get rid of some dead weight rooks, I think. The perk with Atkins is obviously his price point and break even. And that's pretty hard to resist when there's not a lot of rooks. I've already got Chincotta, as most of us do. Not a lot of cash gen happening. I've still got Cam McKenzie on my bench. Van Ruin's almost topped out. Fergus Green's pretty much there. Chesser, hopefully he comes back in. I'm still holding Bytel. I've got Corey Wagner and Wilmot. So leading up to the buys, it's like I know Atkins' job security is not there, and he probably won't be there till by round 13 when his buy is. But I'm more thinking about the cash generation the next 2 weeks, really. I'd be surprised if they dropped him for the West Coast game. Given, that mark kick game works well on Optus Stadium, and that's what he's sort of used to. And I think Weller's out for a couple of weeks. So, as soon as Weller was out, my ears perked up with Atkins. And then with Fiorini, it's history, isn't it? So he can score. Again, like in my situation, I can get a deadweight rook, was what I call them, off my ground in the lead up to the buys. It's pretty hard to resist.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. And then, Tim, as you mentioned before, when I heard Pete mention about that, he went back and watched it. That sort of made me a bit more keen on Fiorini. So that's why I'm looking at him. But now we'll go around the table before we answer the questions. So if you've got questions, send them through. Jet, who are you putting as your captain and vice captain at this stage?
So Taranto vice captain, English captain.
Beautiful. Tim, what are you looking at doing?
I am Taranto vice captain, English captain. I think that's what Jeppa just said, right?
Yep.
Yeah, same.
Perfect. Stato, what are you looking at doing with your VC and C?
Ditto.
Liam, are you going to complete the set? Are you the same, or what are you doing with your vice captain?
I'm going Taranto into Steel.
Yeah, well, I'll match you with that. I'm going Taranto into Steel as well. So we're pretty much all set with Taranto VC and then English and Steel captain. So pretty simple with that. So we'll jump straight to the questions then. So first one comes from the Carlton Blues on Twitter. Says which two players should he be bringing in this week? I'll go to Tim for the first one here. So he's saying Steele and Drury, Houston and Atkins, or Fiorini and Atkins. And I'll just say with option one, it means playing an extra rookie on field. And then all three have got Setterfield out. So I'll say it again. So Steele and Drury with an extra rookie, or Houston and Atkins, or Fiorini and Atkins. What are your thoughts, Tim?
I like the first one the most, but it would depend on which rookie plays on field. And then the other thought that I've got is that if he's got an extra rookie playing on field, depending on which rookie he's playing on field, why the hell is he getting rid of Setterfield? Now, I know there's an argument for getting rid of Setterfield, but I don't know. I don't know that I would prefer to play, depending on that rookie. But there's only a couple of decent ones. I don't know that I'd want to play a rookie over just trading Setterfield. I know there's an argument for trading Setterfield, but I think there's also an argument for keeping him. I think you can kind of hedge your bets there and not get hurt too much. So, that's what I think.
Yeah. I'll go to Jet with this one because I know he's a Houston owner. Are you keen on Houston potentially as an option? Would you go Houston and Atkins with a less rookie, or would you do Steele and Drury with an extra rookie, or Fiorini and Atkins? What are you leaning to, Jet?
It's a frustrating buy. Let me tell you, I started the year with him, and he's coming into his own a little bit. But look, I'm in a similar position to that question, that coach's scenario. So I'm all about going to Steele and Drury at this stage because we don't know what's going to happen next week. Forced trades, when the opportunity is there to get a big dog like a Steele, who, and this again, DC convinced me of this. I think Monday, Tuesday was. Ultimately, Steele's the inside mid. His role's not going to change much. He's pretty guaranteed to go 105 to 110, and that's pretty much top 8 territory. So that's what I'd be doing. And so he'll have a great run.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's why I've sort of gone to Steele, just with that really nice run coming up. John's got the next question. Stato, I'll go to you for this one. He said, cash strap. So would you tick off Corey Wagner to Ryan Angwin and Philippou to Fiorini?
Yeah, tick that off. Absolutely, mate.
I'd tick it off as well. And he says he's also ranked 5th overall in Dream Team, but 8,000 fantasy. Well, good stuff, mate. This year's still 5th in one of the comps, so good work there. Mark has got this one. He says, McGrath to Jai Simpkin or Setterfield to an Andy Brayshaw or Noah Anderson. Liam, I'll ask you that one. So what way would you be going? Oh, Liam, I think he's on mute.
Oh, sorry. The first one? It was McGrath.
Jai Simpkin or Setterfield to an Andy Brayshaw or Noah Anderson.
Yeah, exactly. Who?
I think it's. I think if you really want to trade out Setterfield, going to either of Brayshaw or Anderson is the better option. I like Noah Anderson's buy, and I think Brayshaw is underpriced what we know he can go at when healthy.
Yeah, if you were to pick one right now, Anderson or Brayshaw, are you going towards the sort of guy that's been the high scorer previously, or are you going the buy with the round 13?
I think I'm going Noah Anderson, but it's very close in my mind.
Yeah. I'll go to a YouTube question for the next one. So Connor John's got the first one here. Jep, he says, is Ryan Marshall a must this week, or should I just hold Riley O'Brien?
It kind of depends where, how critical the rest of your team is going. Sounds like that is a luxury trade. Look, I think English and Marshall, the top 2 rucks at the moment, guaranteed. So why not? If it's a luxury trade.
Yeah, agree with that one there. Tim, next one, Andrew Griffith says, Cowan to Drury or Angwin, and Setterfield to Short or Sinclair. So, firstly, who would you be picking out of Drury? Would you be going Angwin over Drury?
Yeah, I would. If Jep says so, then Jep says so.
And then would you be going Jaden Short in the midfield with potential defender status. So would you be going a Jack Sinclair, who, as we mentioned with Steele before, has got a pretty good run coming up?
I haven't really been paying much attention to Sinclair and how he's been going. What was the other option? Sorry, if not Sinclair, it
Jaden
was
Short.
Look, I do like Jaden Short as an option. Let's go to Stato, mate. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure.
Stato, who would you be going out of Short and Sinclair?
Oh, geez. Go to Jepper on that one. No, yeah, it's.
So you want to double it and pass it on?
Pass the parcel.
I'm going to give my opinion.
I would actually go Short. I think it's a better price point, and being round 15, it gives you actually more space to plan all your trades. I'm a little bit touchy of bringing in round 12 players 4 weeks out.
Yeah, Liam, were you going to add something there as well?
I was actually going to say Sinclair. I know that Selby makes the point, but he's a bit like Dawson, and in the last couple of weeks, he's been opening the batting and the bowling in that he's taken kickouts and CBAs. And like was just said with Steele, great run coming up for St Kilda, and he looks back to what he was doing in the middle of last year. Maybe not the super ceiling scores when he was 130, 140, but he looks very good. And I'm willing to pay up for a bloke that I'm pretty certain is best, top 6.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with the Sinclair one as well. So, Andrew, we're all pretty split here. So I can go with your gut with that one there, I reckon. Nathan's got the next one. He says, I'm committed to doing Hollands to Drury. Should I go Ginby today and leave just 3 rookies on field, or go McGrath to a Steele and 4 rookies, Jep? What would you be doing in that scenario?
Sorry, say that again.
So he's going Hollands to Drury, said he's committed to doing that. Should he be doing Ginby to Will Day with just 3 rookies on field, or go McGrath up to Steele with 4 rookies on field and holding Ginby?
Ginby today, he's got a low break even. It's just going to get harder and harder, and I see him as top 6 defender.
And I'll just recommend, Nathan, just don't watch the Essendon game because McGrath's a hard watch. But yeah, I would probably be doing the same thing as well. And then, Kanos said Fiorini or Atkins. Liam, which one are you going out of which one would you choose between 2? Are you going Fiorini?
I'm going Fiorini.
Yeah, and I know that Stato's going Atkins this week. String Bean PE says, Bales, how much do you bench press? I don't bench press anything, mate. Don't go to the gym. Not a fan of the gym or whatever. But if people want to go to the gym, then that's fine. Next question is we'll go back to the Twitter ones here. So NH Friend says, Stato, I can get Setterfield and an upgrade with a rookie off field with cash. Would you tick that off?
So Setterfield being upgraded with a rookie off field, yes.
Yeah.
Ticket.
I'll tick it as well. Actually, I'll follow up here, Stato, with this one. So NH Friend says he's going Max Michelani to Fiorini, and then Setterfield to Stewart or Sinclair with 300k in the bank, or would you be doing Hollands to Fiorini and Ginby to Stewart with 2k in the bank?
The only problem is if you bring in Stewart, who I think is a great buy, is that he's going to be a low scorer this week. So if you're after that sweet sugar, you're not going to get it from him. Who's St Kilda got?
North
Melbourne? Yeah, I'll be going Sinclair out of those 2, mindful of what your buy structure is. If you're loaded with round 12s, then I'll be looking at different options. So the other thing that Stewart's got in his favour is the round 13.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, speaking about that matchup, is Sheasel a sneaky captain, vice-captain option?
Yes, I think so. Mitch on Ball Boys did his Big Boys before, and I think that he's a definite shout because obviously no Aaron Hall in the side. They got St Kilda, which is the easiest matchup. It's under the roof at Marvel. I think he's a sneaky captain. I still got this thing in my head that I don't know if I can captain a first-year player. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if I can quite do it. But he's a good option. Is he someone that you've looked at, Tim, as potential captaincy?
Oh, I'm tempted. I mean,
But Kesty, I
yeah.
will suggest you don't put a VC on a player that's playing the last game of the week.
Oh yeah, sure. Yes. Thanks, Stato. Always here for the good advice, mate. Yeah, but and also being last game of the round as well. Who wants to do that to yourself as well, like we did with Dacos a few weeks ago? But look, I mean, I just know he's playing Saints, right? We know how juicy the Saints matchup is for defenders, and I mean, every time he's playing in that defensive role, he goes 1 bloody 20, doesn't he? So he's worth considering. But yeah, I mean, being a rookie, you would have much preferred to put a VC on him than a senior.
Yeah, agreed. Cameron Gibbs got the next one. He says, Petrarca or Steele, Jepper? Who would you be picking between? So you're a Petrarca owner. Would you be going Petrarca over Steele?
Yeah, I would actually. Close call, but Petrarca hits all stat lines, including the goals, and he's still getting enough time in the
Does
middle.
that potential forward status as well? Another maybe potential juicy thing coming up soon.
Absolutely, and then you've got a round 14 buy versus a round 12 buy, and that comes into play.
Exactly right. And then Cameron, if it's better for your buys to get Jack Steele, then maybe do that. But yeah, Petrarca's got that ceiling and could go big this week. James Richard's got the next. Oh no, exactly the same. Jack Steele, Chris Petrarca. So there you go. We've answered that one. Ginormous 18 Liam says, which trade should he do? Should he do Jinby and Cowan to Fearing in Angwin with 18k in the bank? Or should he be doing Callahan and Jinby to Fearing in Atkins with 124k in the bank?
So get 2 rooks off field and bring in Fearing and
or go Callahan to Fearing and then Jinby to Atkins.
Oh, yeah, I don't have particularly strong feelings either way on that one, because I just think that Callahan's probably only a 70 this week, and I must say I have not looked at what his break even is.
I think it's back. I think it's back down to in the 40s because he got that 98. I think last week.
Like, I would prefer a world where you get rid of 2 rookies and you bring in Fiorani.
Yeah. I think I'd rather keep, I think, Callahan and get rid of Cowan to Angwin. But then again, does Cowan come back in the side and does anyone get dropped? So that's a bit of one you got to wait. But yeah, I think I'd probably weigh to that one. Yeah.
Yeah, just one thing. I'm going to have to drop off in a second, but if I could just borrow the round.
That's
table,
right. It's all good. Yeah.
Which downgrade would we prefer? Is it Fergus Green to Angwin, or is it JBR to Drury to allow me to take Ridley to Steele?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Angwin. The thing is, there is talk, and I didn't catch the VFL game on the weekend. Normally, I do watch, especially with Faye and how good he's being. But there's talk that they've moved him onto a wing, but I just haven't seen it. So, look, job security wise, I think Drury's got the best block. It's just he doesn't have the ceiling as such as Angwin, and Angwin's more established in terms of his break even. So, if it's a long term game, probably go Drury.
Yep. All right. Perfect.
Beautiful. Well,
Thanks,
appreciate
everyone.
you jumping on, Liam, and good luck for this week.
Yeah, you too, Bales.
Beautiful. Cheers. Thanks to Liam for jumping on there from the Free Kick Pod. Make sure you go and follow the Free Kick Pod on the social and get the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and follow Liam on Twitter as well. So we'll keep flying through with some of these questions here. So we said the Stuart Sinclair one before. Bushnell Tim says Stocker to Fiorini and De Goey to Steele. Were you ticking those 2 off?
Stocker to Fiorini
And De Goey to Steele.
So Stocker's a mid-price, so we brought him in. He probably made some cash. How's he been going the last few weeks?
I think he got he was doing well last week. He was tracking for an 80, but then he had a 0 point last score, I think, or whatever. So
the Saints up against
Melbourne,
up against North this week,
and they've got a good run.
And then it's like you're going from
one mid-price to another mid-price.
You know those, yeah,
bit sideways.
Yeah, it's very sideways. Yeah.
What
was the second part of that?
Steele.
Hang on. I
probably wouldn't do the trades because I think you're going mid-price to mid-price, then you're going I guess a premium that hasn't been performing consistently up to a premium, but it's sort of 2 sideways. I'd probably still prefer it if you can do 1 down, 1 up, or something like that, I think. Or even if you did something like, I don't know, maybe Stocker to... bit like what Stato's doing. If you do Stocker down to Atkins, if you're happy to
And
do
what
that.
rookies have you got on
That's
field?
right, yeah.
What rookies have you
It'll-
got on
it'll
field,
depend.
right? Like, exactly right. I mean, I know there's some teams like, I mean, you know, I think Stato's a really good example. I mean, he's kind of only really got the 3 rookies on field, and that's probably, I imagine, when the minimum I imagine most teams are probably at right now, unless they've gone super mid-pricer kind of thing, which I'm not that bothered about, right? But I'm talking about higher ranked coaches. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a, you know, a bar that you want to try and, you know, you want to be trying to keep those rookies off field, you know, and if you've got too many, I mean, we can really get hurt with them really easily, you know, as people have found out the past few weeks.
Exactly right. Doug Fitzpatrick, has said, hey lads, Jinby and Pedlar to Day and Drury means fielding Philippou, means fielding one of Philippou, Ryan, JVR, Davey, Drury, or Green. So, Jep, are you ticking that off?
Very much ticking off the trades, and probably play Philippou, or I'm sure he can loop a rookie possibly. So Philippou has the soft matchup against North Melbourne.
Yep, agreed.
Good trades, by the way. Good trades.
Legman09 Stato says, was going Jinby to Atkins, but thinking Drury generates more cash and probably the same job security. Thoughts on Atkins? Will most likely score, but Legman reckons he'll disappear soon. But you are grabbing Atkins this week. Would you still be getting Atkins over Drury?
Well, if this new rat that I saw on the weekend only plays half as well as I expect, I don't think he gets dropped. But, you know, form's a fickle thing. But, look, at the end of the day, Drury's a risk, and as Jeppa said, he's not going to be the highest scorer, but there's not too many rookies floating around. So if you can get an upgrade by grabbing a 200K rookie, then that's just a positive thing.
And I'll follow up you started with this one here from Dingo. He says, George Hewitt or Rory Atkins in 300K.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, who did Carlton play last week?
West Coast. And then they had St Kilda the week before. So I've had a good run.
Right, because Hewitt scoring has popped back up, but maybe that's reflective of the matchups. It's an interesting one. I'll quickly have a look at his price point, because I dare say there's a lot of players around his price point that might actually be a little bit better selection than Hewitt. Well, actually, God, he is cheap. $7.32. My God. But that makes it interesting. I just think you really need to be mindful with these Carlton players, as you guys just quickly covered. St Kilda and West Coast, the last 2 matchups, you don't get any better than that. And I'm pretty comfortable to say that their run only becomes harder. I'll just quickly pop it up on the screen and just have a bit of a look-see. But we're talking Carlton midfielders. They've got Brisbane, Western Bulldogs. Then they've got a hard run, which is Collingwood and Sydney. So I don't know if I'm flying at George Hewitt, because they've got, even Matt Kennedy's not getting a game at the moment. That's how many good midfielders they've got.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Tim, apologies, I missed the message before, mate, but we'll take a break for questions for a quick set, because you just want to give an update on the Content Creators Cup. Tim, again, apologies for not seeing the message from before.
No big deal, mate. Look, not so much an update on the Cup. I mean, we did that last week on the podcast, but just a reminder to people, there's that 5-module online program out there, you know, for people that want to learn how to basically pay their house off 3 times quicker, save thousands on tax each year, and replace their income. You know, we've had a pretty sensational bloody reaction to it at the moment.
Oh, hang on, I think Tim has dropped out for a sec there. I reckon he's unfortunately dropped out. Jepstone, we still got you. It's not the Spaces that's dropped out, has it?
Yeah.
I'm
perfect.
back. Oh, hang on. Did I drop out? Did I?
Yeah, he dropped out for a sec. Well, on my end, you did. I don't know
shit. What did you hear, and where did I go?
You were saying that it was you've had an amazing response, obviously, to the module, and you're going into that, and then it sort of cut out.
Oh yeah, look. So all I was saying was we've had an amazing response. We've had heaps of really great feedback. People saying that it's awesome. So if you want to check it out, just get along to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL fantasy.
Yep, 100%. Get involved with that. With the program, it's fantastic. So it's a great thing you're doing for the fantasy community, Tim. We all appreciate it. I've got a question of my own, actually. I just want to float this pod up. Mitch was talking about him, and he's quite keen from Ball Boys fantasy. What are our thoughts on Callum Mills potentially as an option? Are we we're obviously all looking at him this week, but is anyone keen maybe going early this week, or would we still want to watch it for a week before launching into him? Anyone can sort of take this one.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to feed into this. So I'm watching Callum Mills closely because he's lost 170-odd thousand from his starting price. So he's becoming quite an interesting discounted premium. Obviously, with the amount of injuries they've had in their defence, he's had to push back there, which ironically seems to do whether they've got injuries or not. So uplift in his CBAs, but not a huge uplift in his scoring. I think it's about position, to be honest. So a position I'm in the game at the moment, I want to see the change. I'm quite honestly hoping that, he just keeps on pumping out 90s for a few more weeks and turns the corner at round 11 so I can jump on at round 13. But the reality is I understand the interest of jumping on now, because if you get him early, you can sort of get a jump on the competition. But I'm in a position right now where I just want to concentrate and play the smart, safe game, and we'll wait till I see the turn and the break even the right way. If he adds another 15k to his price, which he needs a 140 to do so, that's when I'll pull the trigger. But I can understand the coaches that are maybe in the 10k club to go and have a little crack early. But he's worth the punt.
Yeah. Jet, Tim, did you have anything to add with Callum Mills at all?
His break even's 119, so I think it's best to wait, even though he's a Swiss Army knife, as he's commonly referenced, and he can fill gaps and play roles ad hoc and give Longmire some levers to pull. So, yeah, at this point, it's a no, and it's a watch.
Yeah. Tim?
I'm tempted. I'm not tempted in terms I don't have to cash anyway, so it's not really an issue for me. But he is just the kind of player that I would love to go early on. The thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is, I do think with Robbie Fox coming in, he might go more into the midfield.
is coming in as well, wingman.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think I love, particularly on someone who can be a top 8. Like, I love to jump early. I think, I kind of did that with Brayshaw last year and it worked out really well for me. I know a lot of coaches did, right? So, but yeah, it would be nice to wait a week, but then if we wait a week, it's only 2 weeks until he's by. So, we might be stuck in a bit of a position that, if we don't get him this week, next week we might be looking at him going, oh yeah, he's right for the picking. Oh, but shit, in 2 weeks' time, he's out for a week.
Yeah.
So
I will point out he's also got Collingwood as an opposition. They're the hardest midfield to score against.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. I've looked at Mills this week. I just think I've got the money to get Steele. I think I'll get that this week, and I can always bring in Mills next week if I'm looking at that. But then again, that is 2 round 12 buy players, so I have to look at my buys with that one. Brendan McKay says this one here, Stato. So I'll go up to you. So he said Lux trade, but he's said LUX. So bit of a pod little reference there. Lux trade, Clary or Steele? Who would you be picking out of the two?
It's weird because I've got the cash to get Clary this week and I've gone for Dawson. I've just got the little thing in my head that you always go for the value. So take away 2 different buys because we're only guessing everyone's buy structure. but still is just greater value right now. So there's not too many players that are $1 million value that I will go to until every single rookie's off.
Yeah, I'd probably be going Steele as well for, I think it's about 80 odd K, something like that. So I think I'd go the value. Plus Clary's got a good next 2, but Steele's got a pretty good next 4. So again, probably depends on your buys, but yeah, I'd be going Steele for the value. Porter Dennis has got the next one. So Jep, I'll go to you for this one. So he says Setterfield and a bench downgrade. So he's going, I'm assuming he's going, yeah. So Setterfield up to Noah Anderson and Fergus Green down to Angwin, so just a traditional 1 up, 1 down, or would you be doing an underpriced option in Adam Chera for Setterfield and then getting a Fergus Green to Rory Atkins, which gets an extra rookie off field?
No, I don't like the Chera move. I much prefer to be straight back, no mucking around, straight to the top, especially when you got someone like Setterfield at your disposal.
Yeah, and Noah Anderson's got that great buy as well, so that'll really help out.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next one here, which is Recon Top DT says Long and Wagner to Rat and Chincotta, or Stocker and Chincotta. No, hang on. So let me start again. So Long and Wagner to Rat and Chincotta, or Stocker and Hollands to Chincotta and Steele. So Tim, what would you be doing? So
First one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Get rid of a red dot as well. Jet, would you be going the other option, going up to the top and getting Steele? Would you be doing the Long and Wagner to Rat and Chincotta?
Yeah, that's a tough one. No, I'd go straight to the top. Yeah, Steele for me. It's just I just don't like. I've had so many bullets. I think this is the first week of the season where there's no forced trade for me. And I can get Steele, and I'm really tempted by it now. I was a bit nervous about Steele at the start, but yeah, I got convinced otherwise. So yeah, let's do it while we can. Otherwise, next week, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, Stato tiebreaker. What would you be doing? Would you be doing Long and Wagner to Rat and Chincotta, or Stocker and Hollands to Chincotta and Steele?
It really depends on where you're at, because I exactly understand where Jeb is coming from. But if I'm struggling for cash gen, and you're in a good position, I'll be looking to get rid of the red dots cash gen and take a rookie off the field, rather than create an option where, yes, you got a premium, but you still got a weakness on the team. So it depends on what your team is looking like. We are very close to the point where Jeppa's theory is right, is just get the big dogs. And if you've got a really good structure, you've already got good cash gen, but that's why I'm questioning you. Like me, you haven't got Chincotta. You're missing out on the option. He's trying to do a double cash grab. Geez, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Because it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I also think that Steele is just about ready for the picking. And it's sort of seeing I'm going to one premium this week, but I only had one round 14 midfielder, being Warple, who is going to get the boot as soon as the opportunity presents itself. So I had to bring one in. So that's when it went Petrucca, Dawson, and Oliver. So I went to in a really good position at the moment. And there's a 50% owned player that I haven't got that's but playing really well, and probably Adelaide's best midfielder, to be honest. 100%. And seems to be a player that's not too worried about the attention, because he's actually got a bit. So I had to fill that gap. It gives me a bit of protection. But if I didn't have, the sarong types, then it probably would have, and was strong in the round 14s, I probably would have gone Steele. So he was my second option. So I understand where Jeff is coming from.
Yeah, and Dawson's been great. I think Selby touched on it. I didn't actually know that Dawson was such a tough sort of like he could play this inside mid role. Like he's getting tackles, he's getting his contest possession. So he's been very, very impressive so far this year. where have we got here? So Matt Man 13 on YouTube says, I'll go to Jet on this one. Says, hey boys, I'm completely split on who to bring in between Jack Steele and Tom Green. So he hasn't got Tom, obviously Motor traded Tom Green out or hasn't got him. Would you be picking Steele over Green, or what are your thoughts?
No, I'm Tom Green above Steele. I'd really like, obviously a little bit cheaper, 40 grand, cash is king. But Green, yeah, to me, he's a top 8 mid, no doubt about it. I'm a proud owner.
What, Singer's like 13 tackles or something last week. So if he can start adding that, then I think that 110 average is very realistic. So next one we'll go. We talked about Mills there. Clancy Walsh says Rivers to the Pastor, and then Setterfield to Laird or someone like Steele. So Tim, I'll go to you for this one. So you're ticking off Trent Rivers to Fiorini.
Maybe. What's the other
so
part
he's
of it?
doing Setterfield to Laird or Steele, one of the two.
Setterfield to Laird or Steele. I mean, once again, it's that first trade is like it's pretty sideways.
Yeah. I guess they're banking.
There's probably upside in Fiorini, and they're banking some cash, and then they're doing an upgrade. So, yeah, I could tick it off.
Well, who'd you be picking out of Laird or Steele? I'm actually, I'd be going Steele personally, and people know how big I am on Laird. I just think that Steele has got a good run, and Laird with that little sort of doubt. But are you Steele over Laird as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's just a little bit of a cloud over Laird at the moment. At the same time, I think, like Jeppa said before, I think kind of Steele is kind of poised to jump for those that can.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, Nathan Dawson's got the next one. So he says, here we go. Here's another combo here. So I'll go Jep here for this one as well. So he's gone Jack Steele or Noah Anderson. So I think, Jep, you had him. Was he in your top 3 targets on the +6 pod on the week, or Pete's top 3?
Yeah. Again, it's the buys for me. It's Anderson ahead of Steele, even though long term, Steele probably nips Anderson to score points overall. It's just getting through the buy rounds.
Yeah.
Hey, Jep, do you think that Gold Coast have kind of changed their game style a little bit, or do you think it's been a little bit more matchup dependent over the last couple of weeks?
They play a more mark kick game than I've ever noticed this season. I don't think it's changed this season.
Yeah, okay.
It's changed from last season to this season, but not during 2023.
Yeah.
It's far more mark kick, and that's why I'm really buoyed by Atkins and Fiorini, more just for the short-term prospect, because
Oh, hang on. I think we lost Jep.
He left us hanging. And the one thing you have to remember is...
I will say that's why I went McPherson, 4 weeks ago or so.
3 weeks maybe.
But...
who knows where we are, but at the moment it's dry as a bone. So, Atkins and Fiorini really appeal to me, and it's easier to score fantasy-wise when you're playing a mark kick game, in my opinion.
We did lose you for about 10 or 15 seconds there, mate, but I think we got the crux of it. That's all good. It's all good, Dust. There you go.
So, Stato, you quickly saying there, what were you going to say at the end there?
The worst thing, when Jappa dropped out, he's probably given us the little drop of gold we all need, and none of us will know. None of us will know. But I will say that's why I went McPherson. Is I actually saw that their game style is about controlling the footy. Now, if you remember, Jew come originally from Hawthorn via Sydney, who both had that style at a time. He's been struggling to find how to use this talent the right way. It's taken a few rounds to click in, and let's say their opposition over the last 3-4 weeks hasn't been the best, but it's currently working for them. So if you actually look through the data, everyone goes, oh, that mark numbers can't continue. It's actually their game style, and it's why McPherson's scoring so well. and it's why quite a few of them popped last week. I think the only one, or the only ones that will struggle to get the kicks, will be the true insiders. That's why I want to have another look. So I'm saying I want to see whether Flanders does well inside. It's those that are actually in space, hence the wingers, Fiorini and Weller and Powell and Rat all did so well last week. So it's one to monitor, but good buy, good game style for fantasy. I think it's Sun City.
Do you have Flanders price there, Stato, at all?
I think it's high 400s, but he's got a break even of 84 is my memory.
492.
Yeah, and 84 is his break even, so he's a really good watch this week. But if those guys that are pure inside may not get the advantage of this game style, it's the ones that are outside a bit. So that's why Rat, Fiorini, McPherson, Powell, and Weller previously were all a little bit exciting options.
Well, you just touched on one there. I was actually going to ask you about that next, as I heard on the coach panel they were talking about Will Powell. And what are your thoughts on Will Powell, Stato? Like with Weller not in the side, I think he's 597, I believe, and he's got a break-in of it's like the mid-20s. So is he an option that coaches could consider that hasn't been spoken about a lot this week?
Absolutely, and I've got him in every draft side possible. Body's been an issue. This isn't the first time that he's sparked our interest, and they like the ball in his hands. So, look, I think Powell is a really great option. It's just a pity about his price point. He's just a little bit off. But at the end of the day, if this continues, because I think he has a 40-odd in his scoring range, that he won't jump up too much. But keep an eye on him because he might be a serious option.
Yeah, I'm looking at him close this week, especially for the buys. I'll see how he goes this week. West Coast next week could potentially be an option for next week. Brent?
Hey, Bales. Yeah. Sorry, mate. Before you move on to the next question, I got a bail, mate. So just quickly before I go, just also let people, anyone in Perth, there is a bunch of us heading to the Varsity Bar in Northbridge to have a burger, have $5 pints between 5 and 6. So I better get going. And $6 pints between 5 and 6, and scream at the TV while we watch the footy. So if anyone wants to join us, come on down. But I'm out.
A word of warning, Tim. I've only been to Northbridge 3 times, and it never ended well.
Mate, I've been there a few more than 13, and generally it doesn't end well. So you got the perfect.
Enjoy it, mate. Enjoy
Beautiful.
it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tim.
boys. Thanks, Jeff.
We'll speak Sunday.
Yeah, thanks, Miles. Catch you all later.
Beautiful.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We'll go for a couple more minutes, boys, and I'll let you go, and then we can sort of relax for 15, 20 minutes before the bounce starts. But I'll go to use this one again. So Brendan Mackay says, Steele or Walsh? You're a Walsh owner. What would you be thinking there?
That's a tough one.
Apparently, Walsh's CBAs were down last week a little bit as well.
Yeah, so I was at the game. He was a lot at half forward, but just pushing up as the extra mid. So a bit like last year when that occurred. That occurred quite a bit last year. So yeah, no concerns. Steele for me above Walsh.
Yeah, and I think again, as we said before, we don't know people's buy structure, but that might be the splitting factor. But yeah, it's a tough one. Stato, who'd you be going out of? I'm interested to get your opinion. Would you be going Walsh or Steele there?
Steele was my number 2 on the hit list. It was just the buy that pushed me away. So I went Dawson. But I also went Dawson for security. In the position I'm in, 50% owned. Everyone else has got him. So if he goes for, I think his last 3 is 116. If he goes for 116 for the remainder of the season and I don't have him, I'm going to fall behind. So it was a protection thing, but Steele was high on the radar.
Yeah, no, Steele's good option. That's why I'm looking at getting him this week. Core has said he's doing Jinby and Green to Angwin and Short, or Jinby and Michaelani to Angwin and Steele. So actually, first of all, I'll go for you for this one as well. But just a quick few words on Michaelani. I think he was one that, I know that you put him up in your rankings, but I think a lot of us missed him this year.
Yeah, no, that one's my bad. Got through the cracks. Apologies to everyone. He's been fantastic for the Crows in a football sense and really solid in a fantasy sense as well. So, yep, Tom Green was one of the options, wasn't it, to bring in? So that's who I like.
I know, so he's trading out Fergus Green. I might have accidentally said Tom Green.
Oh,
so he's doing Jimmy to Angwin in both scenarios. So he's saying, do you go Fergus Green up to Jaden Short or Michael Lanning up to Jack Steele?
Michael Lanning up to Jack Steele.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, you get the better upgrade, and they've both probably got good job security. So I'd be doing that. Clancy Walsh, is Sam Walsh a VC option, Stato, against Brisbane at Marvel tonight?
It's not the worst. His form has been sensational on his return. Been waiting for that sort of second, third game sort of lull, but it hasn't happened. But maybe that's because of the opposition. I wouldn't be screaming for it because Brisbane are a hard opposition. So have a look and see what your other options are. I'm always... Doesn't your weekend turn like shit when your VC goes bad on a Thursday or Friday?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Oh, you just fret. But look, he's not the worst option. I can't imagine a tag. So I don't think he's going to give you a bad score unless he gets injured, of course. Touch wood, that doesn't happen. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But whether his ceiling against Brisbane's going to be high is the question.
Yeah, well, my weekend was great last week after a lot of coaches as well with Marshall VC. But Jet, mate, you still scored really well considering that Marshall wasn't your VC.
Yeah, mate, I had a week of just bliss. I think my lowest score was Jimby with a 50, and then it was all 80s and upwards from there. So just got lucky. But I look, with the VC, Taranto's copped a bit of flack this week from old Kane Corns, old mate, and others. And I reckon he's going to go. He was actually pretty good last week, in my opinion. Again, in a footy sense, not a fantasy sense. So I expect him to give the Eagles a good touch up. And then Tim English versus GWS of what, and going by Calvin's comments recently of what GWS have given up is exactly right in their rucks. And Timmy's one of the highest averaging players, if not the highest averaging player at the minute. So
yeah, he's looking good.
Yeah, it's hard to pass.
Yeah, exactly right. We got Buzz has jumped on as well for a chat just before we head off. Dos, mate, has the week been pretty good sitting back after watching Go Dorini last week?
Don't talk about your bench.
Yeah. No, sorry, I actually ended up missing most of the conversation. I actually had a question for a change. Usually I do have all the answers as being the buzz that I am, but I had a question for you guys. Sorry if you've already answered this, but I'm just wondering, out of my abundance of bench picks, as you mentioned, Stato, which player to field out of... so I'm very blessed and lucky to have Bergman come back into my squads for some more cash and been sitting there for a while. But I'm just wondering, out of the likes of Drury and Bergman, who I'm thinking will both play in that defensive line against the Saints with now Hall out and Zeeble possibly playing forward, out of those two, Wilmot or Pedler, I just have to choose one. Which one would you choose out of that? So Drury, Bergman for North, or Wilmot or Pedler?
Geez, was he going for the world record of the longest question?
Well, surely you can loot Wilmot tonight, Dos.
No, mate, that's the green dots. It's a blessing and a curse, Jeffy.
Bugger.
Rule effing one.
Well, I'd go Pedler because he looks in good form and, again, probably gets more tackles than we notice and a lead up forward. So, yeah, Pedler ahead of Wilmot. And then the other one was Drury.
Bergman from
sports. Yeah, it's one of the four.
Bergman's tempting potentially against the Saints if he's back in defence.
Yeah, it's Bergman.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I thought. That was my gut. That was my gut feel. But then I was looking at Drury and he's just more of like, in terms of junior numbers. I know he played kind of more of a mid forward. If he plays defence, because he played that
he's been playing VFL, Josh, forward in the VFL, sorry, mate.
No, but that didn't stop them playing Sheasel forward and
True.
him back too.
What
True.
happens if he lines up in the forward pocket, Doss, and gives you a 12?
Okay, fair. All right. Fair enough. I'll go Bergen. Thanks, boys.
Perfect.
So I went through DOS all the games of the VFL, and he played forward in every single one.
Yeah. I just remember before the trial game that was, he didn't actually play in. He
You're
played
right.
defence in that one, in the one that was like televised but not no stats. And I remember him doing pretty well as a defender because he's only 177, isn't he? So he's kind of
you're exactly right, mate. I think what
Mhm.
North realised is the emergence of Bergman a little bit, and Sheasel behind the ball when they have this, plura or great number of half-backs. So they put him as a pressure forward to do his stuff. So he'll be much like what's the tagger from North that got dropped? He'll play that
Kane
role.
Turner, is that the one? Yeah.
Kane Turner, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not great for scores, and I had him on third on my list for that reason. In saying that, I want Jack Steele. Well, I want a big dog mid that badly. I might even bring him in this week if Wilmot scores okay tonight.
And
Bales and
plethora
Jeppa.
was the word
Plethora.
for this. Plethora.
Jeppa and Bales, welcome to my life. You say something and someone doesn't listen.
No, I enjoy your pod, guys. You're doing great. It's always good entertainment. Holmesy keeps you in check as well, which is good. And yeah, it's been great, really good. Keep it up.
I think on that note as well, I think we'll cut it there. Anyway, we've got 23 minutes until the bounce. So, is there any final thoughts, boys, you want to give to everyone before we head off?
I would love for everyone that's listening to give Doss 2 minutes on why we should go the GOAT.
I've done it too much I've done it on like every podcast this week, and I've had COVID a week. I feel like crap. So go Fairrain if you want, and if you don't, there's so many doubters out there. Just enjoy getting the 120 drop on your head this week.
And get well, Doss. Get well, buddy.
Yeah, wish
Cheers,
you
boys, and thanks for
wish you well, Doss.
Up, mate.
Have a good one.
Perfect. Jet Wars.
Have a good one, boys. Catch you later.
Beautiful. Thanks, Doss. Jeff or Stato, mate, have you got any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I just enjoy the week of footy. It seems like, like I said, the week's gone quick for me, maybe slow for others, but looking forward to some good quality footy tonight. Contested ball. Neil probably steps up to the occasion, in my opinion, too. Still can't trade him in, but looking forward, parking fantasy aside, a good, hard contested tackling game.
Who are you boys going tonight if you were to tip? I don't know if you're doing tipping at all, but
I'd be tipping Brisbane, even though it's at Metricon or Marvel.
Stato, who are you going tonight?
Yeah, I expect Carlton to fight this one, but I think Jep is right. Yeah, the smart money's probably on Brisbane, and I'll just leave by saying, isn't it nice to have a week where we don't have forced trades?
Oh,
amazing.
And doesn't it create issues when you actually have to think?
Exactly right.
It really does. It really does, Stato. It's and that's where I come back to my point previously. Let's probably the wiser move is to go the big dog now while we can.
Yep.
Before some other curveballs come our way, in the weeks to come.
And this is the opportunity, and this is why I've moved on Rids and Setters, because they look like problems.
Yeah,
it's a week to fix issues that we've got.
Yeah, and that's another reason why. Because I think off the top of my head, I could have gone a Jinby to, I don't know, a Butters or a Rochelle or something like that. But as you mentioned, no issues. I think McGrath, this is the week to finally cut ties with him. So that's why I'm going up. And I can deal with the other extra rookie next week anyway. So plus I get to loop Watt Hollands and Wilmot tonight, which will be good. So perfect, boys. Thanks for jumping on as always, Jet. Where can people find you and the podcast?
Yeah, Jeopard DT on Twitter and the +6 pod with Pete. Always keen for some Pete data. He loves it. He lives and breathes. He does God's work over there.
Yeah.
With all his information, and obviously his websites and social media posts are invaluable to us.
Definitely go and follow +6 Pod and Jep, and go follow Pete at AFL Ratings Pete, and then AFL Ratings both on Twitter as well. And then Stato, mate, where can people find you, the Pod and the Draft Doctors?
Yep, and Statesman33 on Twitter, and unfortunately handcuffed for the rest of my life with DOS.
That's all right, mate. It's good fun anyway. I'm up against who actually. Do you guys know who you got in the Content Creators Cup this week? I know I've got Holmesy, so big test for me this week. Hopefully, you can get over the top of him. But do you know who you boys have got?
I have. Where am I? I've got Nathan. Oh, over mullets. Here we come.
Yep.
Good matchup.
Stato, do you know who you've got?
I've actually got Alex. Now, I will play something if this pops up quickly, and I hope you guys can hear this, but got a nice little mention, but I've got a nice tagline for this. So I'll play this, and my God, I hope this comes across.
Person, I've got Stato. It's first Stato. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, Stato's going to use well. I wonder, Stato would not know who we are.
Probably not. I've talked to Stato once or twice in the Spaces thing. Yeah, and sometimes he'll throw to me for stuff, and sometimes he won't know who we are. Probably got better things to do, I suggest.
So my answer to that, yes, I've got better things to do. Sucked in, Alex, you lose this week.
Oh, that's funny. Good work with the break here with boys there as well. Good fun, and looking forward to this week, boys. Thanks for jumping on as always. Thanks for people listening on Twitter and YouTube as well. Appreciate also the people subscribing to help me hit 1,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. I appreciate the support there, and me and Tim appreciate all the support with AFL Fantasy Fanatics as always. Go and follow Jep and Stato on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and we'll chat to you guys again on Sunday night with the round review. So thanks, Jep, Stato. Thanks, Tim and Liam from before, and have a good week.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, good luck, and great to speak Bales and Jepper.
Beautiful. Thanks, boys.
Cheers, Stato. Cheers, Bye-bye.